Over generations, we mapped the entire planet from space, yet we remain catastrophically miscalibrated to the living systems that keep it alive. In complex systems processing, there is a concept called signal discrimination. This animated diagram shows how it works. Notice how one sharp, artificial spike is isolated and amplified, while the massive underlying organic waveform gets intentionally filtered out as background noise. We engineered our global machinery with a specific goal: to track artificial data points with hyper-precision. The ecological crises we face don't stem from a lack of information. They stem from a systemic tuning error in what our civilization considers real. This is the gold whale, a fiat idol of financial wealth. Our society is completely optimized to revere and track its every movement. To monitor this abstract value, we constructed sprawling architectures of speculation. We built immense trading floors dedicated to watching this single isolated frequency. Beneath the floorboards of that economy is the actual physical reality, the living, breathing gray whale. Tuned entirely to the artificial idol, our instruments process this biology as invisible background static. We actively ignore the living systems that sustain us. A society that pours all its energy into polishing an artificial proxy will inevitably blind itself to the ecological rot at its own foundation. This societal blindness is operationalized through the primary tools we use to understand the world: our maps and grids. Centuries of physical knowledge, the intricate tidal flows and generational migration routes of marine life are systematically erased by the rigid, straight lines of industrial planning. The output of this system is an infinite stream of disconnected speculative data. It consumes physical geography to generate wealth. Reducing a living ecosystem to a blank space on a zoning overlay marks it for extraction. These financial and cartographic structures don't merely describe the ocean. They actively enforce an extractive hierarchy over it. When perfectly straight commercial shipping lanes collide with the complex, shifting movements of biology, the result is systemic friction. At the same time, rising global temperatures act as a massive mechanical pressure. Melting ice and shifting currents displace historical habitats, forcing wildlife to forge new, unmapped migration routes. The physical consequence is deadly. Displaced whales must now navigate directly through hyper-industrialized commerce corridors just to survive. Tuning out an ecological signal doesn't make it disappear. It turns that ignored reality into catastrophic, unavoidable friction. A global engine calibrated entirely to an artificial proxy will ultimately cannibalize its own host. The unmeasured costs, habitat loss, pollution, and shifting climates, eventually compound until they break the structure designed to ignore them. When the idol of finance completely detaches from physical reality, the system faces a violent correction. Nature always forecloses on artificial debt. Eventually, the entire artificial financial architecture floods. With the collapse of the noise, the true signal finally becomes audible. This recalibration defines a shift in how we apply our collective intelligence. As the artificial spike flattens, we set a new baseline frequency that prioritizes vital biological signals over speculative data. Ecological restoration requires abandoning the golden idol. We must build systems that integrate with the rhythms of the living world, rather than paving over them. To survive our own hubris, we must finally stop looking up at the machine and look down at the life sustaining us.